Hi everybody, welcome to the stream. Happy Wednesday. It's time to begin more programming. Yay! Hope everybody's doing well today. So we're gonna pick up right where we left off yesterday. We're in the middle of fixing up the freeze ground class, and one thing we had to do in the meanwhile was make it so every function that existed inside of entity actually have a respective function for both the player and the monster. So I noticed that I was using like the same boilerplate initially inside of freeze ground, so I decided, okay, let's fix this by actually passing in entities instead of standard variant monster pointer player pointers. And this system was developed specifically for this reason. Both monster and player have very, very similar features. They're not quite the same, but in a system where you do more generalized programming, like you may make an entity class, typically. And so essentially what the entity class in my game does is it takes a standard variant that is either a monster or player type, pointer type, and then it links them together and then says, okay, for anything that's an entity, there will be certain functions you can call that are shared across both a monster and a player. And then we wrote a macro to reduce that boilerplate even further. Hi, just wanted to say hi. Unfortunately, I'm busy. Oh, okay. Hi, Adrian. Welcome. Thank you. Good to hear from you. I'm currently trying to figure out why my taskbar is popped up. I think one way I can just fix this is by re-auto hiding it. Sometimes something notifies me and I have no idea what notified me. So I'm just going to do this real quick. And that typically will at least fix it for the time being. I hope. Apparently not. God, I'm really gonna have to open every window to figure out what this is. I hate that. I absolutely hate that. Is one of these, maybe? Something. Let me close everything else that I don't care about. But I've pretty much gone through everything, and taskbar is being silly, so I don't know what's going on there. Oh, is it because of that? Okay. Well, that's fair. Very fair. Okay. Alright. Sorry about that little hiccup. Let's get going. So we currently have an error with standard ranges for each, saying that there is no instance overload function. And yeah, we're just trying to figure out why. Because we're trying to iterate through this standard unordered set in for each, and it just can't figure out what to do. Argument types are entity, standard hash entity. My guess is that standard hash is not implemented for entity. That's going to be my guess here, because I'm pretty sure if I supplied that with something else, it would probably work. Like, for example, let's say instead of this, we just put in some kind of like standard vector, right? Standard vector int 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then let's just say this returned an int instead. And like we had no code here. So in this case, would it resolve? Yes. So, oh, but I see there is a typo here, isn't there? No, there isn't. That's correct, I think. So yeah, I think it's because standard hash is not implemented. I bet if I built this, it would probably complain that entity does not have a standard hash implementation. So we can add one real quick, and I think it's very easy because the standard hash we would use is just the hash of a monster or player pointer, but it would be obviously the hash return of the entity. So implementing standard hash, let me take a look at how we would do that real quick. Hash function, So yes, standard hash. Let's see here. Hash support. I guess it doesn't really matter what, just I want to find out how to actually implement it is all. I've done it before somewhere, so maybe I'll just reference that, but essentially, let me see. Each header that declares the template standard hash also provides enabled specializations of standard hash for the following types. So yeah, like, I want to see what an implementation of this looks like. A hash function object. The enabled specializations define a function object that implements a hash function. Okay. That doesn't tell me much, does it? But let me go back here, and we're looking at freezeground.cpp. Yeah, so no matching call operator found. Could be one of these two. And the associated constraints are not satisfied. The concept unary invocable evaluate to false. Concept standard invocable. Invoke no matching overload function found. Unknown type standard invoke callable. Okay. So again, I think it's because we don't have a hash. Implemented. Yeah, something like that. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else I missed here. I don't think so. Like, even if I get rid of this, right? Like, that still doesn't satisfy it. So we're gonna have to fix that, hopefully. Unless this has to be const, which I doubt. Oh. Well, this isn't complaining anymore. Is for each supposed to be const? I don't think so, right? Like, why would it be const? But yeah, it shouldn't be const, right? That wouldn't make any sense. But it says object type is const standard ranges for each function. Like, it thinks the function is const? Lambda entity void return type standard equal to argument types are standard unordered set entity, standard hash entity equal to entity. But it says the object type is standard, so the for each function operator is const. How's that possible? I don't think that should be a thing. It's like, I guess this returns a const for some reason? That is a little strange. And I'm not sure why that actually occurs. It's like, because I could do a standard for each, right? Like, that would work. Unless for each just does... Let me see. So, let's try it the algorithm way first, right? For each. First, last, okay, so... Begin and end. Like so. So this works. Interesting. So I'm not sure why this would be an issue. Because clearly we can do that, right? So standard ranges for each. What would be the difference? Standard ranges for each. For each result. For each. No, that's standard for each. For standard ranges for each. For each n. Standard for each. Oh, it is in here. Applies the given function, object f, to the result of the value projected. Medgard says, what made you decide to use C++? I was getting into... Well, I just came out of learning, like, Pygame, one of the Python game libraries, and I was looking for something that was, like, pretty simple to use, but kind of like a simple game engine, nothing that was complex. So I began exploring, and I found the OLC Pixel game engine, which is written in C++, but the appealing thing for it was that it, as a single header file, So you literally include it in a project and you're good to go. You literally can just start writing code and put pixels on the screen. And so I thought, oh, this is actually very easy compared to using C++ for other engines where usually you have to include like library linking and you have to understand how to use it. It's more complex. OLC Pixel Engine was literally just grab and go. And so after I learned how to use it, I was very happy with it. So I started learning C++ for it. And that's what made me choose it for this game, was basically it became the flavor of the month for me. It doesn't, I didn't really have like a systemic reason for it. Like a lot of people say that C++ is a good choice because it's very fast. You get moderately low level. It's not quite as low level as something like C, but it still lets you mess with a lot of the internals, and it's also a very complex language, which lends itself to both good and bad things. It's good in the sense of you can do a lot, it's very feature-rich, but it's also very complex. The complexity and learning curve is pretty high. Well, by this point, I had a lot of experience with other languages too, so we're thinking Java, C, Bash, GML, Game Maker language, Perl, and the likes. So at this point we were pretty well established with what programming looked like in general, so the language doesn't really matter at that point. It's more what I could use to accomplish what I need. So at that point, the engine required C++, so that's what I learned next. Anyway, I don't know why this range, or for this ranges for each is giving us const. It's kind of annoying. I'm not sure if I could fix that. I know there's something called a const view, but I think that makes it const and not the other way around. As const. Why is this complaining about bad cert? But I'll just go in anyway. That's kind of weird. Well, it does say www.en.cppref. I'm not sure why that is like that, but yeah. That is technically not the main domain. So as const view is a range adapter that represents a view of underlining view that is also a constant range. Has read-only elements. Well, these shouldn't be read-only though, that's the thing. Like, were they read-only further up? Oh, they're read-only here. Well, are they? They kind of are. But now that doesn't satisfy this, which is interesting. It's like it has to be const anyway. Going into this, but that shouldn't affect what it is down there. I mean, I guess I could just use a for each here. I just don't know why this range complains about const. But I guess we'll go with this. I think there's also just a for each view, which I could use. I think it's standard views. Well, it would be like a transform or something, which I don't really... I mean, I guess it's technically going to be a transform view because we wouldn't be modifying the entity, but we would be modifying stuff held in the entity. Are you a game developer? Not necessarily. It's just game development was my motivation to learn programming, but I wouldn't say I'm like a game developer in general, just a software builder. In general. It's just games are fun to make, so... And they're a very good programming challenge. So I do enjoy building them a lot. I guess I will just... That's interesting. I really wanted to use standard ranges for each, but it just doesn't let me. So that's kind of rude. But anyways, I end up with the range here, so I guess I'll use that. Unless standard ranges for each wants me not to use a range, which is entirely possible. In that case, maybe I just take this out? Let me see. What happens if I do... Because now that I think about it, this is constructed. So maybe that's why everything's constant there, because it's like, it's very temporary unless I sign it. Well, I did assign it here. Maybe I can const cast it. But I think, I have a hunch that that might actually be why I can't mess with it. So if I make that there, does it let me do this now? It still doesn't let me do it. It just complains about const. I'm tempted to const cast it to see what happens. Because I have a feeling this shouldn't be a thing. Alright, let's try that. Standard const cast to, or not standard const cast to a standard unordered set of whatever. I don't think this works though. What would this be? Entity? Okay. Yeah, it must be a reference. That doesn't matter. As my day job? Oh, I don't currently work. So, I'm just chilling. I'm on vacation. And I'm not like trying to do game dev as like a way to earn money. I think that's a little silly. At least for the way I'm doing it. But I'm just currently, I don't currently have a job. So I just get to make games, which is fun. Also, it's very hot. I'm gonna turn on the air real quick. So I'm just chilling right now. No plushie! Oh, yeah, there's no plushie today. I'm sorry. I came for the plushie. Yeah, no plushies here. Maybe tomorrow. Okay, so... I wonder if it's because I'm using auto. Like, can we just say that this is a standard unordered set of entities? I wonder if it's just actually thinking it's const for some reason. Like, I am very confused why it wouldn't let us do this. Because when I make this const, it's fine, but then I need access to... It's like... Maybe I can const cast it here, but that doesn't really make sense. Like, why do I have to do that in the first place? Oh well, I'm just gonna stick with this, since it clearly works and does what we need it to do. I'll do some more research as to how to handle this later, but for now this will be fine. I just really don't know why it insists that it has to stay const. Are you planning on releasing this game on digital marketplaces? Yeah, the demo is currently on Steam. So I might also try to put it on a couple other places, but primarily I just only really care about it being on Steam. God, plus Sticky. The unsubscribe. I know you wouldn't. So I think this is all we have to really do. This is just a check for any entities that have left, subtract one from stacks, update the intensity, and that's pretty much it. If there are no more stacks, set the lifetime to 0 so the buff can be removed. And that should take care of, I think, all the buff-related stuff when it comes to freeze ground. And that might actually just be everything we need to compile. Oh wait. No, we got a lot more to look at. Hurt flag is not a class or namespace name. Where do you come from? This is from hurt damage info. So we'll go ahead and add that. Include hurt damage info. What made you say it'd be silly to want to make money from game development? Well, I think two things. One is that I'm not someone who is looking at, like, the game market and saying, oh, this is what people want, this is what I'm going to make because this is what people want, or this is going to have high success in the marketplace. If I'm being realistic, this game probably will sell maybe 100 copies if we're being optimistic, because I'm not spending time to, like, market it. I'm not, like, spending time to make it the most amazing next level thing. This is a pretty, like, when it comes to action adventures, I think this kind of story and idea is very generic. It is something that a lot of action adventures do. So the game isn't like super novel or anything. The release of this game is more for me in the sense of I made something I really like, and that's it. I'm not appealing or catering to any audience, and I'm not trying to like market it or sell it en masse. Like, this isn't a business, right? I'm not treating it as a business. I release this on my own schedule, I work on it on my own pace, and I add what I want to add. And that's pretty much it. And if you have that mentality, I don't think as a game developer, you're going to get much traction out of it. Like, unless the idea is super novel and a lot of care and attention is put into every little detail, including like the artwork, the music, the story, the little details to make a game really like amazing. That's not to say I'm not like making my game of good quality. I'm just not trying to make it I'm not trying to make it like a $30 or $40 title, right? I'm just trying to make something I like, and I'm putting in the amount of effort I want to put in. It's very relaxed in that regard. If I want to work on something, I'll work on it. If I don't want to work on something, I won't. And that leaves the freedom of me to decide how detailed and polished I want the game to be, but it also means that it's not necessarily going to appeal to a large audience. So hopefully that kind of explains that mentality. There are folks out there that say like, oh, I want to become like an indie developer and rely on the income from that, but then you have to realize what kind of work goes into that. You're going to have to put in the time and effort to really polish your game. You have to find or be able to yourself make all the artwork. You have to learn how to do art. You have to learn how to do music. Either that or you have to outsource it to other people. And all these things make up a great game. It's not just one thing or another. I could be the greatest programmer and I can make a game with a bunch of boxes and rectangles with very complex mechanics, and nobody wants to play it because it might not be fun, or it might not have graphics that are going to make people want to click the buy button. And I do mean it when I say, like, I am on essentially vacation right now. I just came out of 10 years working, so I'm just enjoying myself for the time being. Having money saved up means you can just kind of relax and take your time with it, so I'm just chilling for now. Enjoying some time off before going back and finding a job. It would be nice if I could get some kind of, like, programming job, though. I think that would be pretty nice. Ideally, I would want something remote. And I feel like I'd be a good contribution to a programming team. Just for my general knowledge and experience with programming. I don't think I'd have a hard time getting one. It'd be pretty easy for me to convince somebody to hire me, I think. Okay. So I added that. That was a very simple fix. I didn't hit recompile. I thought it was compiling this whole time. Let's see. Let's see what else we need to do. Or it's actually compiling now. Yay! Yeah. But I just enjoy doing what I do, and that's pretty much all it is. So once this is done, I assume this graphic is actually going to display, right? And after that, we just need to see if it works. Now, I want to... Oh! I remember something I wanted to do yesterday. I want to implement 2 new unit tests for that get buff function we made, because I'm under the impression that they work, but they might not necessarily work. And the way to make sure they work is to actually just do a unit test for them. So we're going to add some. So we do have the has buff functions here. Oh, okay. Entity hurt redefinition of default argument parameter. I must have typed that wrong. Yeah. Oops. Get rid of that. You don't need default parameters on the implementations because they were already defined elsewhere. And then we have hash. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Now we're on the part where it's like, okay, there's no hash. So we have to implement the hash function for entity. And I think it'll just tell me here what I need to implement. which is kind of nice. Standard hash. I don't know what its input is. It looks like... I guess you just provided the entity. Let me see if I can find one I've already done, because that would be very nice. Let's do current project and look for hash. Get hash, get hash. Is that what this is supposed to be? I don't think that's right. How long do you think it'll take? So we're currently on chapter 4 out of 5, which doesn't sound like much, and it really isn't. And then after that we have to do polishing. So I'd imagine if we give a generous like 3 months for the next 2 chapters, then we're looking at what? April, May, June. So around June timeframe I can start doing polishing and testing. So give it another like 2 months after that, and we're looking at somewhere around the later half of the year. Ideally, I would like to just push through and finish the game now. We took quite a break a while back, so I started this project in 2023, but we're only on day 454 of programming, so clearly we haven't streamed for every single day of those 3 years. So... yeah, give it like 60 or 70 more days, and we should be on, like, testing, I think. As long as I keep, programming, which I hope I can still do. There was a lot going on at the time I was taking a break, so, which is why I stopped. And it's natural for projects that are this long to have breaks in between them. I'm trying to figure out... Alright. Let's see. Let's just look this up, because... implement... hash custom type, because I forget. A hash function, a class that overrides operator. Oh, that's all you have to do? Let me see. Oh, yeah, and then you provide the item, const whatever. That's fine. So we'll pretty much do that, but for entity, and we will just hash the actual pointers, like I mentioned earlier. So standard size t operator function call, and then we get a hash out of that. So effectively, I'll just return a standard hash from standard hash of a player pointer or a monster pointer, depending on which one. I actually think if I do call class function, that will return, yeah. So that actually works great. I can just say call class function, standard hash, and then I have to provide the type. I guess the type is not known though. Cred. I could do it with the template, but I really don't want to. Oh, I do have the type. Well, I specified the type in another macro. I guess I would have to do this, which is fine for this. Okay, so then we can say here, standard hash player pointer, and that should be good. I don't know if we would need anything else. Oh, and then we specify the player pointer, which is us. That would be get player pointer, and I think that should be it. Same with the monster pointer. Okay. Well, that's good. Alright. So now hash has been implemented for entities, so we can go back to our errors and see if there's anything remaining that we missed. And after that, we should be good. We're missing a type. Alright, which type? We're missing... oh, key. Well, it's not a key, that's for sure. It's supposed to be entity. So we'll fix that. Okay. Rebuild. That was just me copy-pasting something from Stack Overflow. Oh, these are wrong too, because that's expecting entity. So, in this case, it's actually just entity.entity, I think, because that's going to be the pointer itself. Although that's the variant, so I have to get it from there. Standard get type. entity. That should technically be the same. Oh, I see, because the name entity is the same as... I could put ENT here. That way we're not conflicting. It's confusing the local variable. Or, how about this? Because that could happen in the future with something else. I should make it so get actually uses or references this entity. If we want to be super exact and make it compatible with accidental parameters that may be the same name, then doing this instead would fix that. That would be like the more correct way to make sure it works. Okay. And I'm just looking at these buff tests because I'm trying to figure out if I can utilize what I already have here and just add on to the test. So, well, this specifically test has buff. So maybe we'll just do a get buff function. So say get buff function test. And we're going to, let's just add a couple of buffs to a monster, because what I want to do is make sure it only returns the first buff. So I'm going to do like, let's say we have Adrenaline Rush, Speed Boost, Speed Boost. So we have 2 Speed Boost buffs. And then we have... So we want to first test that get buff actually returns nothing. So we can actually just assert that. Assert our equal that get buff. And it doesn't matter which buff. We can just choose, like, let's just say Adrenaline Rush. And we just want to say, so get buff will return an optional, and an optional by default, if it's considered a boolean, will return whether or not it exists. So monster has no... Monster should not have an adrenaline buff at this point in time. Oh, I might have to cast it though. It probably doesn't know how to convert that standard optional into a boolean, so just casting it, it already returns a boolean, so it'll call bool on it. I think that's how that works. But if we want to be... I guess if we want to be really sure, it would be a bool constructed from mGetBuff. Because that's more of an implicit cast, which I think would result in the same thing, but I'm not entirely sure. But if we construct a bool from that, it should be fine. You know what? Let's test that. I'm very curious, because I don't know if that actually would be how it works. I want to know. So typically, standard optional, let's say int, if it's empty, my number, let's initialize it with nothing in it. So if we say bool exists set to my num, right? That's like we're constructing it from that. But then let's say we have something that has a parameter of bool. I wonder if that will still work. But we could say explicit, right? So let's try like is same, which would be an explicit bool argument 1 and 2, or am I thinking of something else? Anyways, let's just do this for now. Must be thinking of something else. And then just return arg1 is equal to arg2. Oh. Make that a boolean. So if I call is same on my num and false, does that resolve? Okay, so then we end up with the same thing. No conversion exists. So I'm going to try this in 2 ways. I'm going to first do it by cast, and then I'm going to do it by construction. I want to see if both functions return the same thing. That's a release build. Let me just switch to debug. There's also a has value. Yeah, that's a synonym for it. I do prefer doing it that way. So this returns true, and that also returns true. Okay, so that is the same. Good to know. In that case, knowing that, I can actually just do this. No, you're good. You're good. So let's do get buff on Adrenaline Rush after this, or after the update. We have to wait for a game tick for the buffs to actually appear. So monsters should now have an Adrenaline buff, and should now have a Speed Boost buff. Let me change these to true. And then I guess I want to see which speed boost it is. So we initialized 2 speed boosts, one with a duration of 1 second and one with a duration of 2 seconds. So we want to see if we get the right one by comparing the duration. It should be equal to 1 if we have it. So I'm just going to do this, and then I should be able to pull from that. Because we know it exists, we checked it with the previous test, so we're gonna say the duration. Also, welcome. Good to see you again. Is it lifetime? Lifetime is equal to 1. Monster or get buff should reference the first buff in the list. And then let's say we remove speed boost. It should remove... oh, it removes all buffs of a given type. I feel like it shouldn't be called remove buff then. It should be called like remove buff of type. But I guess that's why that note is there. But anyways, if we remove buff speed boost... yeah, I only want to remove 1. You know what? Let's do it this way. Let's wait for a second to pass, which means that buff will expire, and then we'll check if there's another buff that is also 1 second long. And the whole point of this is to make sure this is now referencing the other speed boost, which should have 1 second remaining. And then if we wait again, there should be none left, so this should return a false yet again. Monster should no longer have a speed boost buff. I can put get buff. Cast that to a bull. That should be fine. So let's try that. Did we build? We didn't build yet. Let me see. Hash is still not evaluating for entity. Let me see. This would be invoked from... It should exist. Let me see. Entity.h. Standard size T operator. Okay. Constant entity. Is that what it's invoking? Because that's what it should be doing. Last time we were complaining about the invoke. See reference to variable template constable note throw hash being compiled. While compiling class template member function size T hash compare const key, which was entity. Your code seems easy to read, even from viewing it through its stream. It's very clear. Really? A lot of people say the opposite because I don't use the spacebar. So like all my stuff is squished together. A lot of people complain that everything's squished together because I don't press space. I'm glad you think it's readable though. That's a first. I follow some very basic like formatting rules though, so at least like my code's indented and not all over the place, and I do try to be pretty specific with my variable names considering how much I have to review old code and be like, if I have no clue what's going on, I'm just gonna have a hard time, right? Just save myself the pain. You actually code like that too? Oh, awesome. Well, I guess that's why you say it's easy to read. It makes sense now. I don't understand why this isn't working. Like, it should be called it exists, so... okay, let me think. What if it doesn't exist because, like, it needs to be... so is it because maybe it's, like, supposed to be a friend class? Oh, wait, it's a template. I forgot. You have to make a template out of this, don't you? Oh, right. I forgot about that part. So I need to do this in the header because it's a template. Like, this isn't quite right. So let's fix this. This is implementing standard hash entity. Like, we're basically creating the specialization for this template. Cannot be defined in the current scope. Am I... Oh. Go out one scope, please. Okay. And then... let me move all this into there. And that will generate the template function for standard hash entity. And... oh, these... wait. This is all good. I think that's good. That looks like good code. Is undefined. Is this like inside... wait, what? Oh, it is undefined. It's only defined in the CPP file, which is kind of funny. I guess we're moving it then. We're gonna define it in here. These are kind of generic though, so I'm a little scared to keep it like this. I'm gonna leave it for now, but I have a feeling is and get, because they're such common phrases, they might get mixed up with other stuff. Like, that's pretty risky, right? I think it would be smarter to just have these defined in this header file specifically and have it redefined in here. Because I really don't, for names that are this broad, I really don't want these two to be bleeding out into other files. That seems very bad. So I'm gonna undefine them in the header after we're done with them in here. Entity is not a member of standard hash entity. It isn't. Not a member of standard hash entity. Oh, that's right. It's this entity. So now this is actually this, which is now incorrect. So really, it's now entity.entity, which I'm just gonna hard code it, let's be honest. Let me just take these and fill them in here. There's no reason we can't do this here. Wait a second though. Hold on. So this also depends on what type entity stores, which is interesting. Well, that's fine, I guess. But yeah, these two need to say entity.entity. And then these two are going to be either player pointer or monster pointer. Is this private? Yes. We could friend class it. I learned about this recently, but I guess we would friend class the standard hash entity struct, which I guess we need to actually say it will exist. I could define it above. Friend struct. I guess technically the implementation for this would be generated when we call it here. I hope the compiler, like, doesn't do this in order. I would rather have it below, just so it's not taking up too much space. I'm not making an MMO. This is an action-adventure role-playing game. Yes, welcome, welcome. It's Saber. This is why I didn't do coding. It is quite relaxing once you know what you're doing. A lot of people I try to teach coding to, they get very frustrated very quick. Or they... I think one of the funniest people I've met, like, every time a red squiggle appeared, they would literally stop everything they were doing and freak out. Because they're like, the code's angry at me. The code's yelling at me. And I'm like, oh my god, just hold on. Keep typing what you were typing. It's fine. Sig was teaching me how to code as well. That was confusing. Yeah. It does get confusing, indeed. Yes, especially for something like C++, a very complex language. But it is very powerful once you know how to use it. So I think we're good to compile, right? Entity is not a member of standard hash entity. I thought we fixed that. Oh, I forgot to replace get. So do that. I can remove these defines now. Like this. This is standard get player pointer, which returns entity.entity or reference from entity.entity. I would like to try developing a small, like, little MMO in the future, just for funsies. I think it would be a nice programming project. I know a lot of people are like, oh yeah, my dream game is to make an MMO. I don't think my dream game is ever to make an MMO, but it is a fun coding exercise, I think. But I wouldn't start with making an MMO. That's definitely very dangerous and is very common for people to do, actually. A lot of people are like, I'm making an MMO. It's like, have you made a game before? Have you made many games before? That's the question I have to ask first. Yeah, that's the exact words you're supposed to use, right? I'm just building a small MMO. Those are the words you're supposed to use when you say that. It's never small, I promise. It says, cannot convert argument 1 from const entity to entity reference in algorithm? Oh, so even here... Oh, it's not a reference. Wait a second. Did I miss that part? Conversion loses qualifiers. Hold on. Oh. This doesn't have... Wait, hold on. Is it not a reference now? Is that because it's coming from a view? I don't think that's the case, but let me think about that for a second. Binary equals equals no operator found. What is this? While trying to match the argument list with entity, type entity. From doing standard hash, while compiling class member template, will operator equal... Oh, there's no version that's non-const? Is that what it's complaining about? There's no non-const version of this? Like, if I do const, I guess this would compile, but this function is a non-const function, so it has to be non-const. Do I need to specialize it with a non-const version? I mean, all the rest of these functions are not... or all these are... can technically stay const. Just what's going in is non-const, I guess? I guess that would be the way to think of it. Let's see if anything else pops up. Data hash entity cannot convert from entity. Yeah, okay, so it is this hashing function. Conversion loses qualifiers. So it's going in as a const entity to be hashed. So it's the hash itself is const. And it's saying it's trying to use const entity like this. So I guess I need both. Anyway, I gotta wait for it. I'm gonna wait for it to finish real quick so I don't have to rebuild this over and over. Okay, try one more time. Let me see. Because not a lot of things use entity, so it's a pretty fast rebuild. And as I say that, it's actually recompiling everything. There must be... Entity must be used in some pretty outside file. So, I guess I was wrong about that. Because it's kind of a new class I made, trying to, like, glue together. It's like pseudo-polymorphism. It's like, I chose not to do polymorphism, so instead I have two classes which have some things they share in common, but not everything. Which I could make them both follow some base class, but I never did. So we ended up with two separate classes. And that's just how it was. It's like, it's just tech debt buildup. So, here's what it is. Also, this thing doesn't want to stay. I just take it off. Alright, what do we got now? Same thing? Let me see. Clearly, we're not doing something right with this constness, which I'm starting to see might be a problem. So we may actually just switch to this not being like a view and instead just use like standard filter, because like I'm spending a lot of time on this, which is like not what I want to be doing today. But yeah, let me see here, because it's calling boolean operator equals equals, which, oh, you know what? I think you need to incorporate this. Like, this doesn't exist. I think I forgot about this. Like, yes, we're calling this, but we also need to include operator equals equals. Wait, hold on. Let me see. Argument list is entity for what? It's under emplace? Am I just not doing this right? Am I supposed to use insert? What is emplace? Because I'm used to being like emplace back or something for a vector. So what is standard unordered set emplace? Inserts a new element into the container constructed in place with the given args. If there's no element with the key in the container, called with the same arguments as supplied to in place. Oh, okay, okay. Let me think about that. So if we're supplying a target or an entity, we provide the constructor, which is this, which we actually don't have. So if we already have the object, we essentially do insert instead, because then it'll move it into there. Or I don't even think it'll move it. I think it'll just... Will it move it? Insert elements. Inserts a copy of value. So it does accept an R value. So we could do something like... If we really wanted to, we could do something like standard move to avoid a copy. And then it would be invalidated from whatever this was, which we only... If we don't care about this vector afterwards, then that's fine, which in this case we don't. So doing a standard move here is safe. I guess that's what we would do. But I guess I can also just say target.entity, but it's private, right? It wouldn't know about it. Oh, but this is entity. So if we wanted to, we could construct another entity, or we could do standard move on this one, which I think makes more sense. Like, why would we construct another one? But I guess in place wouldn't copy, right? Like, that's the thing. Is like, this would be the arguments to construct one, not the actual entity itself. Otherwise, we would use insert. That's just interesting. Okay. I forgot that in place means it's the actual insertion of one. Like, construction of one from the constructor. So I was just using the wrong thing the whole time. Although, down here, it looks like we have the same error, don't we? We'll worry about the operator equals in a little bit. Let me take care of this random syntax error. Because apparently there's a syntax error here. Standard vector... Oh, yeah. We're just missing a holding... We're missing a greater than sign there. That would do it. Okay, so now we're back to this. So I guess it's trying to convert to const, right? Like that's my guess. Like we're in here, let's go back to this and let's say, okay, convert to const. Why does that have to be const? Can we convert it ourselves? Like, because we have this, right? Like, why does it have to be const? Can we const cast it safely? Is that fine? I think it's fine. Like, we're reading this straight from here, which is supposed to be a... Like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, we actually just const cast this? I don't know. I don't see why that would be invalid. But it wants const, because this actually apparently is reading in as const. Then again, now that I think about it, this is an unordered set, right? So I guess const coming out of this makes sense. Like, we're literally reading... keys, essentially. So that's why we can't modify stuff in it. Because it's essentially a key, but we're trying to read, like, the underlining pointer of it. Which I guess is fine. It's still complaining. Let's see here. Standard unordered set. Standard hash. So we're still dealing with the standard hash thing. And... I'm just trying to figure out what it wants. Compare. Okay, so we can't compare entities. So this is, yeah, talking about comparing these two again. Because it needs to know if they're equal, right? So I guess what we would check is if entity is equal to itself. Because it's a pointer, so it should have a value. I wonder if the typing matters. Like, would we have to cast it to a void star? Just to see if these two are equivalent? Because I don't think you can compare two typed pointers of different... that reference different types. Let me see. Let's see. So, we have two pointers. Let's just say we have an int pointer and a float pointer. So here's the original, right? My int 7. Float, my float. And let's say that's 3.2. And then we make pointers of those. So int pointer is the pointer of my int. And float pointer is the pointer to my float. So in this case, can I compare the two pointers? If int pointer is equal to float pointer, it looks like there is no equality for this. Now, can I purposely cast these both to avoid star pointers, which would make them comparable, in theory, right? In theory, they're comparable. That might be one way to do it. Because now these are just essentially numbers that you can compare. I guess you could also cast them to like size t's or something. That's essentially what you would be doing, right? Like you'd be casting them to some number and then you can check their representation. So maybe the more correct way to understand this is literally just like a size t cast. If we really think about it. And obviously this equality won't pass. These two are not the same. Not same. But let's say, or well, they would be the same. Let's just say same one. And let's do another one. Let's say instead, I'm going to purposely do this, even though this is like supposed to be invalid. I'm going to say the reference to my float gets put into an int pointer, and we're just going to force this to be casted to an int star. We're doing some silly shenanigans here. And then grabbing that. Or excuse me, not cast it to an int. No, cast the reference to this to an int star. That's what we want. And yeah, just insert it there. Which I think leads to... So we're making the float pointer and the int pointer point to the same thing. We're just doing that on purpose. So we should see same2 pop up here, assuming that's allowed. Int pointer redefinition? Where? What? Int ptr redefinition. Oh, I see. Just do that. Int pointer equals. Okay. This is kind of wacky, but technically that's what we would want. Same one and same2. Okay, that's interesting. They both came out... Oh, because I did this afterwards. Yeah. Put that down there. And we should be better now. Okay. So this now says... Where's the terminal? Hello? I lost the terminal. Now it says same2, same2. Why does it say it twice? What? There's no way this should run twice, right? Hello? Am I dumb? Okay, maybe it was just printing out from a previous run or something. But yeah, same2. So yeah, essentially, if we cast two pointers to size t, we get numbers out of them, which, because that's what pointers are, and we can compare them that way. I think that would work fine for our comparison. So we'll say two entities are equal if their pointer internally is the same. So we need to implement this now. This is a operator equals equals. It doesn't belong in here though. I think it belongs over here. And we could just make it a friend function. I think it has to be, so it's a binary function, right? Because it accepts two values. It's comparing, I think it's supposed to be the binary, right? Bool operator equals, yeah, it's looking for this, like const2 GU, well, not GUIDs, but const whatever type, in this case entity. There's no acceptable conversion. I guess there's two. There's probably the unary and the binary one. Let me look both of them up real quick. Operator equals equals. Operator overloading. Operator equals equals. So, is there a unary version? Unary would mean it only accepts one, like, and the local. I guess there's not, so we implement left-hand side and right-hand side. Also, I didn't know that. Apparently the inequality operator is typically implemented in terms of operator equals equals. And operator equals equals... Yeah, that makes sense. So you basically get operator not equals for free when you implement operator equals equals. So we'll do that. I want to say this probably has to be friend, but I'm not entirely sure. but these two will be entity references, left-hand side and right-hand side. And I guess we'll just do cast both to size t. So left-hand side entity is equal to cast to size t, right-hand side entity. And that should fix that up. At least I hope it does. Oh, return. So let's build that and see if it works. Binary operator equals equals has two main parameters. Okay, so I think what this has to be is, if you implement this, it has to be out here, like a global. But if you implement, let me see, yeah. But if you implement it in here, I think it's a unary, because it's like, you're already looking at one instance of it. So it would look like inline bool operator equals equals with right-hand side, and you use this, like there's an assumption that this is already one of these, right? So you have that. No suitable, oh, it's still, well, it's my entity variable, at least it should be. No conversion from standard variant. Oh, it's a variant. Right, I still have to convert the variant. I forgot about that. So that's... oh, that's annoying. I have to do this, don't I? So based on this, we change what comparison we're using. So yeah, maybe I do need a macro after all if I have to add all these in too, because I have to type a lot of things, essentially. But if holds alternative entity, then return standard get entity. Well, it wouldn't return it though, it would... it then has to find out if the other is holding which alternative and do that as well. I almost want to just add another member that's a void star that contains the raw pointer. I almost want to just do this to simplify the whole typing thing, because I'm kind of annoyed by that. And I'll make it const so it can't be modified, and just say when we construct this, we're going to assign raw pointer to it as well, and it'll just be casted to a void star, of course. So it should look like this. And I would do the same here, but for monster, and then I would do the same down here, but I have to do that based on a variant, so we're gonna have to write some is here, because I do have that macro up here. So if it's a player, then we do well, either way we're casting it to void star, we just have to get it, but the get is going to be determined by the typing, which is kind of annoying, but that is what it is. Standard variant does already provide an operator equals equals overload. Standard variant? Let me think about that. Are they... So I assume it would be operator equals equals among each of these, but that's confusing because how would it... would I be implementing an equals equals operator for each of the pointers, like the types instead? Because I don't... let me see. I think it's complaining that you can't compare right-hand side and left-hand side directly. Really? How does that work? I'm trying to think what that means, because that's fascinating. Huh. Why does that work? Like, I'm trying to think how this would be implemented. Like, what does that mean? Like, I assume each of these has its own equality, so it's like, is it going to do an equality among every single type that the variant has for it? So let's say we added some new random type. Does it have to have equality among every other type that exists in that variant with it? If visits on both, if the type differs, it returns false. If the type is the same, it calls... oh, that makes more sense. Okay, so you never compare the actual types between each other unless they're the same, then you do the equals equals. That makes sense. Okay. That's awesome, actually. Thank you for that. So I was basically reinventing the wheel. And yeah, that's smart, and that makes sense. These are private, aren't they? So this has to be a friend function, I guess. Let me define that real quick. Friend bool operator equals equals. So return left-hand side versus right-hand side entity. Very smart. I didn't realize that. Not equals equals equals. Also, hello, Lord Kingmaster. Welcome. Cool. I think that's it. I'm happy with that. Assuming it actually will do what I need it to do now. We learned a lot. Oh, I have to fix this though. I don't want this anymore. Get rid of raw pointer. Get rid of this. So you think casting a pointer to size t may be undefined behavior? Well, according to the CPP docs, size t is supposed to hold the largest possible data type. So I assume, or it would be the largest data size. So I would assume that it can hold a pointer. Now, does that mean it necessarily translates? That could be another question. The comparison is... Really? That's an interesting thought. Because pointers are naturally unsigned and positive, and size t's are unsigned and positive, so I feel like that should work. Like, those rules do exist, or do match up. I have to fix this. Do I? It says syntax error. Where? I don't see it. Oh, this? Wait, no, that's correct. It must have been in the middle of me typing that the syntax error popped up. Okay, it's probably fine now. I was just modifying it midway and then it got to that point where I was deleting stuff. Okay. Do we have compilable code? Because if we do, I'm going to go back to the buff test and actually do run this test. Make sure get buff functions the way we would expect. And I should also manually call a remove buff. Let me add in, well, no, we already know remove buff doesn't work, or does work, so we don't necessarily have to test that. We just have to make sure get buff returns what we expect. So I guess this is fine. It looks like everything's compiling, so that's good. So I will generate the unit test next, and we'll try it out. And then if that works, we'll actually test freeze ground finally, and we'll be happy. We've been doing a lot of, like, internal reworking of, like, a lot of the older classes in my program. So it's been a little slow going with just, oh, let's just add abilities, because a lot of stuff in the back I've been readjusting or refactoring. That happens a lot, but with more C++ knowledge comes more scrutiny when it comes to, like, my old code, where I'm like, I really don't like how this is done. I'm going to redo this, right? It's a very easy thing to get sucked into. And naturally, I want to do it. It's kind of fun to try using newfound knowledge to make the program more understandable or better. Debatable, of course, depending on what we're looking at, but, like, I don't know if doing all this filter view and ranges stuff is necessarily a good idea, but that's what we're experimenting with. We gotta try. It definitely is an iterative process. I agree. And a lot of my code is more than 2 years old, so naturally we're gonna go back to it and be like, ew, I used to code that way, right? It's just what happens with older projects. Luckily, a lot of the conventions I've stood by have stood the test of time, though. Like, I don't think my coding format has changed too much. And my naming conventions are pretty decent. I think I've done a good job with, like, naming everything, so that at least when I look back on it, I'm understanding what's going on. Because the project's so big, though, and I've forgotten some things, and it doesn't have any, like, official documentation that I can reference, it does mean every once in a while I will like re-implement something by accident, and then later I'll find like the duplicate version, or I'll find a class that was meant to do something that I like just rewrote recently, and I'm like, oh, now I have to undo everything I just did. So that does happen every once in a while. Okay, build succeeded. Let's try this function, or this test. If you think your passcode is you, it means you've progressed. I do agree. That is very true. So this test has passed. So I can confidently say get buff does what it needs to do. I should run all the buff tests, because we did change everything to views, so I just want to make sure that changing everything to views has not messed up any other buff applications. So let's just run every buff test real quick. There's not too many. These just have a bunch of asserts all mashed together to check different cases. And it looks like they are passing, so we're happy with those. That's good. So passed all 6 tests. So I'm good to do a commit here before we proceed, because we're at a point where we get to run... Well, actually, let's just run the game then. Since we're at a point where we can run the game, let's actually just run the game and then see where we're at. Like, what's supposed to happen... Oh, before I forget, let me go back to our little skeleton fire mage. I'm gonna have it only cast... Because we already know the blizzard... Oh. I'm still in the unit testing project. We already know the skeleton fire mage can cast blizzard correctly. So I'm actually going to disable that ability for a second and re-enable the freeze ground ability. And you know what? I'll just leave it like that. It only has a 20% chance to cast it, but it casts it at 30 MP, which means it has a higher chance every second to cast it. Since there would be 3... No, you only gain 5 MP per second for monsters. So... Wait, why am I thought I changed the startup project. I did. Run? Why are we running debug? What? Why are we running the game? I'm confused. What is happening right now? I hear my game. Oh. Where is my game? Hello? I don't know where my game window is. Is it just did not go in the foreground? Oh. I guess Visual Studio is hogging the foreground right now for some reason. I'll restart in a second. I don't know why it's hogging the foreground, but it is. So yeah, we're gonna see if it will cast Freeze Ground and take a look at what that looks like. And then I guess we want to see... So the interaction is a little complicated. The idea is it gets casted on the ground, and every second you're in it, you start getting a slowdown buff that incrementally slows you down further and further. So technically, when it's casted, that's not the right ability. But technically, when the Freeze Ground ability is casted, you're going to slow down until you reach a point where you slow down so much that you actually start taking damage from it. And then every second you are not in it, it starts ticking down. So the interaction is a little more complex. So we'll just have to see... No, this is not the right ability. Also, I think the snow particles are a little off. Just a little bit. I'll have to look at that. I don't know why it's not casting it. Because I can tell... Because it doesn't have a cast time. So if we see a casting indicator, it means it's not doing it. I guess 20% chance is pretty low. But every second it gains 5 MP, so if it has 30 MP, at least, it would cast that. But if it has 60 MP, it has a 60% chance per second to cast it. So it's like, maybe I should have just turned on Freeze Ground by itself. Because apparently this is a low enough chance to where it just doesn't want to do it. Am I just not... Are you just not gonna do anything? Am I really, like, missing all these percent chances? It's been a minute. Let me just make sure we're not, like, broken. Because I guess it's decided it doesn't want to work anymore. Let me go to the monster class. Oh, I hear ourselves getting hurt. It does auto pop. Oh, cool. We're fixed. Yeah, let me just go here under monster and let's go to where we select an ability. So wherever we call perform spell, let's back up. Or I guess it's not perform spell, right? It's under cast ability. That's what we're looking for. So it's supposed to choose one right here. Let me just enter here real quick. Are these optimized out? They probably are. I'll have to go into debug. My guess is just it's a low percent chance, so that's probably why we're experiencing that. I'm just gonna turn off Blizzard for a second, and let's actually increase the percent chance to like 50. And I'll just rerun the game. I really just think it was a low percent chance that was doing it. So we didn't really get a chance to see it do that cast. So now, it should do that once it has 30 MP. At least that's the hope, right? Wait, did we even... Oh, we didn't add the effect yet. So it's probably casting it, and we're just not seeing anything. I totally forgot, so we're not quite done. Let's go to monster ability. I forgot, there's nothing in there. Okay, so under the freeze ground lambda, this is what executes when it calls that spell. We're now going to add the effect. Duh! We forgot the part where we actually spawn it. So, standard, make unique. And we're making a new freeze ground. And then we gotta fill in these parameters. So a lot of these parameters are going to come from the config, which we recently created. So here are the config parameters, and we're just basically going to put those in there. So we have the radius, which comes from freeze ground radius. Freeze ground radius. You know, I was thinking this is a macro, right? We could technically get away with not including the quotation marks. Now this would be an insane change to make because I would have to do it across the entire thing, but technically, right? We can include the quotation marks here if we want to. Do I escape it like this though? I don't think that's how that works. I don't know if... I guess I would have to... I might have to do some macro shenanigans to actually make that work, because I don't think that's how you escape things in a macro. But yeah, something like that, right? Just something to think about. I don't know, it is considered a string though, so highlight the syntax highlighting for it might... I don't know, just thinking out loud. Lifetime is config float freeze ground lifetime. I'll have to look later if I want to try and do that, but that is a huge change. I basically have to do a find and replace on every config float and remove those quotes and such. It'd be a pretty big undertaking. I might have to actually use regex for it, because I have to I basically have to pattern match this. So I might actually have to use regex for once, because I don't think I can do it with just mass find replace. Specifically this part. Yeah. Damage. Damage is from the monster's attack. Freeze ground settings. So this is the thing we decided to add, this huge struct, because it made it very easy to combine all the settings we'd be interested in. So I'm actually going to construct this outside of here. That way it's a little less... We're just putting every parameter in one line right now. Settings, which I'll construct right here. And I'm going to make it const. And then I'm going to say, let's look this up. Put that over here real quick. So then we have stuff like the radius. So actually, this is going to use the setting parameter from here. Interestingly enough. Then we have slowdown per stack. We have slowdown frequency. Max slowdown stacks. I'm able to just... Let me do this instead. This will be a little faster if I do it this way. Do that. Do this. Commas. equals config something. Okay. That way it's a little faster. Okay. So slowdown per stack is right here. Freeze ground slowdown per stack. Slowdown frequency. Max slowdown stacks. Stacks required for damage, which is an int. Multiplier per stack. Stacks removed immediately on leave. So that's also an int. Stack removal rate. And finally, lifetime. So I can pass radius via settings.radius. Everything else I can pass in here. So that's interesting. There is, like, I have a radius parameter, but I'm going to be passing that in anyway, so I really don't need the radius parameter in the constructor, because that's just confusing. Why do we do that? Then we won't know where radius is being set from, which could be very confusing. So I'm removing it from the constructor here, so that I can use settings.radius over here instead. So that makes more sense. Cool. And then after settings, we have on upper level. It might just be the variable upper level. We don't even have that. Wait a second. Did I just use the monsters upper level? Yeah, we do. Because that's where it's casted. It's casted on the monsters upper level flag. And whether or not it's friendly, this is not friendly. Oops. Non-friendly. And then we can choose to have in the back, which we're going to... I think we're going to do because it's supposed to be on the ground. So it's going to be in the backdrop. And then with that freeze ground there, it should now actually spawn. So we actually do something with freeze ground. And after this, we can commit and we can start looking at the next spell. Yay! The next spell, it's for a lightning mage. Speed up buffs a random non-mage, non-boss skeleton unit in range with a 20% movement speed buff for 20 seconds. And it stacks with haste. Okay. The stacking with haste part is fine. Like, under the hood, every buff is separate, so we would literally just be giving a move speed buff, and haste is on top of that. By the way, haste was so fun to implement. Like, we literally just give a locally... We literally just tell each monster, like, hey, this amount of time, game frame time has passed, and we multiply that by the haste value. So their, like, their entire update loop just runs faster. I think that was a fascinating thing to write. I was just like, that was actually kind of fun. I liked coming up with that one. What happened? It says, oh, we need an int to float conversion. For what? This? Stacks required for damage should be int. Would you be interested in playing games made by your viewers? Depending on the game. I think I would be very much against, like, horror. Or walking simulators, as they call them. But I think everything else, probably. If it's an RPG, bonus points. But if it's, like, action... if it's a roguelike, also bonus points. I love roguelikes. Like, I will genuinely play a roguelike. That should be an int. I think I got everything. But it's like, obviously, I want to play games that I enjoy, right? So if it's a game made by a viewer that also fits my genre, I would love to try that. It's actually not because I'm scared. I mean, yes, obviously the scare factor would be funny. But I just don't find the appeal. Like, because I've participated in, like, code jams before, and so naturally some people develop these, like, horror games or walking simulators during them, and it's like, okay, I mean, I get it. You're usually stuck in a secluded place, limited vision, walking around, maybe solve a puzzle or two, get a couple jump scares in, story done, right? It just feels... overdone's not the word, but I think it just feels very static. Very samey. the concepts are samey, right? And you could say that about any game. It's like, oh, all action RPGs are samey. All like every Final Fantasy you play is samey in the sense of like broad scope. But if I'm gonna play a game, I want to play something that I find interesting, and I just don't think horror does it for me. Maybe if it was like horror RPG, like if you can incorporate like RPG elements, I think the best one I can think of is like Parasite Eve for PlayStation 1. It has a story. It's obviously a AAA title, right? But it has a really good story. It's very much like body horror, horror based, and it involves the NYPD. So it's like you already got yourself a very strong base to develop a fun like horror story on top of like an actual RPG with like stats and loot and stuff. So I thought that was a very fascinating way to do that. But I haven't played many games like it since. At least I don't know of any like it. Like, I considered making something like Parasite Eve as well. Like, I'm like, I would love to play another game that was like that game, because I thought that game was really fun for being more towards the, like, horror genre. It's kind of like if Final Fantasy and Resident Evil, like, had a baby. That would be what the game is, essentially. Alright, so let's see what happens here. Oh god, that's huge. Does anything happen speed-wise? Did I even implement this for player? I don't think I implemented this for player, but oh my god. That is a lot brighter than I expected. It's supposed to be huge, but I need to add, like, transparency or something. Also, this needs to go over here. Kind of want to combine these two. Okay. Anyway, so did I even implement this for a player? Well, I did generalize it, right? So yeah, I made it based on friendly, monster, or player. It should be non-friendly, so it should be hurting the player or targeting the player. Get targets in range, so it should have obtained the player when the player was standing in it, of course. So I guess we have to debug this, because it didn't really do... It didn't look like it did anything, so let's figure this out. Let's start in here, because obviously when it's created, we're going to be iterating through that every second to see any targets in range of this. So this radius has to work out, which hopefully it does. I would hope at least that triggers, and then we can go from there to follow the logic. But just looking at it, we're going to increment the stacks for every second that this target is in range of this by 1. But now that I think about what the lifetime of this is, what, 10 seconds? The buff? Okay, the lifetime of the freeze ground is 10 seconds, but the slowdown frequency is 1 second. Alright, hold on. Let's think about that. So we're adding a buff that starts with no intensity in it. I think that's what that means. Yeah, so it has 0 intensity. So we're adding a stack, because this should happen. So add a stack. Are we increasing the time? What is the time? So we're adding a buff. Buff duration is slowdown frequency of 1 second. So every second... So this would do nothing, because every second we're adding 1 second. So we have to refresh the duration on the buff when we do this. It's like this buff is just expiring every second. So I guess we have to see the order of operations, right? My assumption is that buff gets added, on the next tick it gets applied. After 1 second this reruns. Do we still have a buff? If we have a buff, we need to refresh the intensity, or the lifetime, because the lifetime is going to expire when we refresh. So I think that's what we're missing, is it probably applies 1 stack, and then it doesn't refresh anymore. So since I see that, I'm just going to do that right now. We're just going to add 1 second to the lifetime every time this buff applies a stack. And then this occurs if it expires. So if the lifetime runs out and it has more than 1 stack, it's going to increase the lifetime again and reduce the intensity. So we're either going up or we're going down, essentially. This makes me think I want to introduce a stack buff system, but we'll have to think about that if we want to adjust the buff class to handle that, because there's not a lot of buffs that use the stack mechanic, so I think that's why I didn't implement that in the class itself. I think it was just a feature I thought, well, it's only going to be in a couple places, I'll just manually implement it. It's only a little shaky because I have to convert a float to an int, so that's the only part I really dislike about it. Also, I want the console. Can I have the console, please? Go over here. Okay. If anything, I would be very interested in at least seeing the source code for a game made by a viewer. I think that would be fun, regardless if it was horror or not. Okay, so we did hit this breakpoint. That's fine. That was after 1 second, so slowdown buff is generated. Okay, lifetime is 1. And the intensity is 0, so we're gonna see if the stacks works out. Stacks is 0, increment stacks. It's not greater than 4. Let me actually put these here in case I have to reference them later. And lifetime. So we increment by 1 when we increase the intensity, so the lifetime is 2, and then we'll be back here after 1 second. So, like, this and this. We're going to decrement tick timer after this is all done. So that was the only entity detected. Tick timer goes down, and then we wait for the next second. The source code for this game is open source. Or, yeah, it is open source right now, actually. If any viewers wanted to view the source code of the game currently, it's located at my Git, which is found at sig.projectdevar.com. And in here is the Adventures in Lestoria repo. Also, don't go in this repo. This is to catch bots. Just a fair warning. I put do not view documents in this repo in raw view. It is literally there. It's a honeypot. It's to trap bots, because bots will just scrape anything. But yeah, every time I commit, everything gets put in here, so you can literally see the project as a whole, view any code you want in it. It's all there. It's where everything goes. The only thing that's not in there are the commercial assets, because naturally they are, well, they are copyrighted. Well, yeah, they're not available to the public. They're supposed to be distributed with the game. So those are the only things that are missing. So you technically can compile it, but it'll say like you're missing these assets, so you have to like either include substitutions for it or actually get the game. Yeah. Let me do that real quick. I really should spend some time making it use HTTPS at some point though, but there you go. You're welcome. Alright, so I want to wait for another trigger of this, which should be on the next second. Or did I remove the breakpoint? Okay. So are we just okay? Are we just so we are moving slower. I'm not taking damage though. So I guess that's the next thing to check. Why aren't we taking damage? So let's go here. Stacks is currently 8, and 8 is greater than or equal to stacks required for damage, so we should be calling target.hurt. Okay, so what's the damage? 41. Attack multiplier is 10, divide by 100 because it's a percentage. Multiplied by 41 should be 4 damage. So let's go in here. It should call the hurt function. It's just making sure we can hit it. And then it should call a class function from here. Damage 4. It is on the upper level? That's weird. I feel like that should be false, but we'll go with it for now. Which should enter player hurt. Wait, is the player on the upper level? Let me check. Game player. Are you on upper level? Upper level, upper level. God, I'm gonna have to search. Upper level. So upper level is false. So apparently this is reporting upper level true. So the player is not on the same level as the attack. Why would that be? Apparently it got placed on the upper level. This would be based on the monsters on upper level flag. Alright, we would have to find out why that's the case then. Why would the monster be on the upper level? According to this. So monster... upper level is false. So that should mean this returns false. So did I pass the parameter in incorrectly then? Did I just pass in true by accident? Upper level is here. So constructor for freeze ground. Oh, I did. Oops. Wait, no, that's not the parameter for that. Upper level is... Oh, we just didn't set it. So it just defaults to true. So it's an uninitialized variable, right? Essentially. Wait a second, what? It doesn't even exist here. Like, the upper level value doesn't exist here. So it's on upper level from effect. Oh, so it does exist. But this, I assume... No, this gets initialized... I'm so confused right now. How does it get initialized to true? I guess we have to see. Upper level is... Oh, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4th argument. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're not running anymore. I should have kept it open. You got a 403 error forbidden? Really? How does that happen? Like, you can't view the site? Error forbidden? Why would that happen? Like, is this okay? Like, the site loads for me? I'm pretty sure it's okay. Does your browser let you view domains without a secure... I'm pretty sure it does, right? Like, it wouldn't not. Oh, does it redirect you to HTTPS? I wonder if yours does that. I've had this happen in, like, rare cases with, like, browsers. Yeah. This is a different website. Which is very confusing, I know. It's... The way I have it configured is very stupid. But I'll fix it eventually. But it might just be redirecting you to HTTPS by accident. So that must be what's happening. Because it probably detects that this has it and shoots over to there. It's kind of a poorly configured server that I should fix at some point. It's on my to-do list of weird Linux administration tasks. So that's probably what happened to you. It's the life of an individually hosted self-run server, web server. Well, Linux server. I really want to spend some time moving everything over to my Raspberry Pi. I think that would be a fun little project, but there's a lot to think about. I've had my server for over like 8 years, so it just has a lot of stuff that I need to keep running, and it's kind of a pain to move everything. I need to like come up with a, I guess you call it a migration plan, right? I'm like, this is what I need to keep. These are the critical services. How am I going to move them over? Right? What configuration settings do I have to do? So, no, this isn't hosted locally. This is running on a Linode. So, I currently rely on Linode to run it, but I would like to offload it eventually. That would be nice, but again, I've had it for 8 years, so it's very hard to migrate off of it. Plus, it gives me automatic backups, so I'm like, it's kind of hard to beat that. Backups are very important, and I've had to use them many times, so I already know I don't want to necessarily migrate off of it without a proper backup setup for my Raspberry Pi. Because in case something bad happens, you have to be able to restore everything. Alright, I'm gonna run this again, because I need to see how this parameter gets around. Oh! I'm just using on upper level of this, so this could be anything, right? Because even though we initialize it, like, we're using on upper level in here, which in itself is not initialized yet. Oh, so that's interesting. We are calling the inherited function on upper level, which derives its upper level parameter from effect, but we're setting it in the constructor with this. Is that undefined behavior? That's fascinating, because this boolean does default to false when it's created, but the creation of it happens when this happens. I think it still gets set to false, but either way, it's not respecting the parameter, which I think is the important part. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but that's the correct implementation. But yeah, it's just VPSs are, relatively speaking, pretty cheap. Getting in this case, a free infrastructure that costs maybe, for me, I think it's like $40 to run backups, to have a very, very good uptime, and a free IP on a machine I don't have to take care of, right? That I don't have to update. That's kind of nice. And I don't have to I don't have to keep running. Like, I'm not paying the electric bill. So I think $40 for something like that is pretty reasonable. And pretty decent machine. Good amount of RAM. It is shared. I used to have a dedicated plan, but I switched off of that. I'm like, I don't need no dedicated plan. I'm not doing anything crazy. I think at one point I had a dedicated plan when I used to run a Minecraft server. Funny enough, so... Okay, can we just assume this works now? So let's just try first and see what happens. Oh, now I'm taking damage. Excellent. I'm taking okay. So the 0 damage is happening. I was wondering about that. Like, this function is not supposed to hurt anything, so... Hurt for 0 damage. I said no damage number. Why isn't that being respected? No damage number, please. Maybe I have to write a test for that, because apparently we're spawning damage numbers, so that's not being respected. Check player, get player hurt. Oh, we're not passing it here. So we're specifically not testing that no damage numbers. Yeah, we don't pass that along. Hurt flag, no damage number. Hurt flags. Oh, they are being passed along. Default is none, but we are passing this, so... Hurt flags passed along. So let me look for the... no damage number. So that doesn't exist in here, so I'm just ignoring that flag right now. Is it a one-time payment? Oh no, you pay for this monthly. So you can think over 8 years, I've spent about $4,000 for a machine that is not hosted by me. I think that's a very reasonable thing. Like, yes, even though if I like, you gotta factor in the internet cost, the power cost, the maintenance cost. Like, what if my hardware fails, right? The backup cost. All of that goes into, yeah, that's a pretty justifiable expense. Like, I would imagine monthly, keeping my Raspberry Pi running with a backup thing, like, I'd have to buy the equipment to host the backups, I'd have to run the scripts to maintain the backup images, I have to also deploy something to restore backup images on it if I need to. There's the always on aspect, which can be very tricky to maintain, because there could just be random power outages. I don't have an UPS. I would ideally want an UPS then. Like, all sorts of things to think about. I would need an UPS for the actual internet connection too. Yeah. When I think about it, I'm like, there's so much you would have to do to maintain the machine yourself. It's a lot of work. And if it's like your hobby, then by all means, but I don't think it's my hobby. I see Linux server administration as more busy work versus actual fun. I like it when I get to write like automation scripts, like bash scripts. That's always fun. But I don't like the actual hardware maintenance that goes into it. And always getting those random messages like, hey, Amy, your server's down, or your server's being really slow today. Like, oh no, what happened? What time to put on my Linux administrator hat and figure this out. So where's this damage number generated? Okay. So, yeah, as I can tell, we totally ignore the damage number flag. So this is all damage number related. I think we can just wrap that all in here, as that's the only spot related to damage numbers. So I'm just going to put an if statement outside of all this that says if... So these hurt flags are, what do you call them? Bit flags? So if we look at hurt flags, we're extracting that one particular bit flag and seeing if it exists. So we do an AND on the no damage number bit. And if that flag is, or that bit is set, then we go ahead and do all this. Yeah. This flag ensures no damage number appears when it's properly implemented. So before I do this, actually, I'm going to write a unit test. That way we make sure this is respected now. I like to do that. If I find something that's messed up but is supposed to be, I'm like, I should have wrote a unit test for it. So I'm sure in here we have some place where we damage the player. So we can write something that will actually damage the player, but also check for that flag. So we can do like 2 damage hurt player. Maybe I called it hurt. Let's look for the hurt function. Flat defense stat equip check. Defense percent static. There's a lot. Is there one just for damage? Hurting the player. Player alive. Player takes damage. Here we go. So this is a good place to check for it. So we can assert that 1 damage number appears when this happens. Size T1. Compare the number of damage numbers, which I think is actually a global variable. Damage number list dot size. And just say hurting the player should generate a damage number. And then let's hurt the player a second time. We'll hurt the player for 0 damage, but we will activate that flag. Let's actually also assert that doing 0 damage does spawn another damage number. So let's say look for 2. Hurting the player for 0 damage should still... Oh, how'd this happen? Should still generate a damage number. And then we want to... We're going to do all these checks for the monsters too, because the monsters use a different hurt function. And then finally, add that flag in. Hurt flag, damage number, no damage number. So the number of damage numbers should still be 2. Flag should suppress a damage number being generated. So we should still expect only 2 damage numbers to appear. And then let's go ahead and run this test. There we go. So obviously we'll have to rebuild. And I commented it out to make sure this test now fails, so that we can verify adding that flag in actually fixes what we want it to fix. Which clearly, looking at the code, it should, but yeah. We want to make sure this test actually works. And we'll do the same on the monster side. I don't know if it's... I assume I added it and then only implemented it on like the monster side. I'm pretty sure that's what happened here. No damage... Yeah, so in here, no damage number. If not, no damage number. So actually, I think what I implemented said if damage number, right? So if... Wait, what? Hold on. If not, no damage number? Oh, okay, yes. So if we go back here, this actually would still fail, because if no damage number is true, then we're generating a number. So we have the inverse logic. So the test should actually fail with this because I implemented it wrong. Funny enough. It should be not hurt flags and the no damage number bit. Okay, so we're just waiting. Waiting for the build. Waiting for it. I should move the test explorer over here actually in the build view. Instead of having the output way over there. Since it's right here anyways, this is actually super convenient. Just thinking like monitor-wise, where I want everything to be, of course. And then we got a little bit of time to... We'll do our git commit, and maybe we can get the speed up spell done. It's not actually that hard to do, so we'll try to get it done today. Real quick, we have some time to do some more code, but who knows, right? So this test fails as we expected. It says expected 1, got 2. Hurting the player should generate a damage number. This was on line 117. Wait, 2? What? We got 2? Why are there 2? Hold on. Now I gotta debug it. Why would there be 2? We only hurt the player once. Interesting. Yeah, it should not have failed at this assert. It should have failed at a later assert. So that's interesting. Maybe this whole time we've been spawning 2 damage numbers instead of 1. Let's see. Yeah, there are 2 shared pointers. And they look like they're the same thing? Are they the same pointer? They are. Why do I have 2 of the same pointer in this list? And since they're shared pointers and the same pointer, are they also strong refs of each other? I guess they would be. VF pointer is 0, 0, 0. Okay. Let me see. Versus... Yeah, that's the same to me. They're technically strong refs of each other. There is one weak. I think the weak is the current call of it, or the current check of it. Let me see. Okay, so the next question, why are there 2? There should only be 1. Let's go in, well, let's just run this again, but we'll do hurt. And we'll just go in here. We'll step. Yeah. Go in here, please. Return hurt. Okay. So we're interested in when we generate the damage numbers, so we'll go down to here. Go to this line. And then it's not a dot. Okay, so add damage. Oh, did we do that thing again? Yep, we did. So we are generating 2 damage numbers right here. We made this change a while back. We made a static function in the damage number class called add damage number, which does actually add a number to the list. This was a pretty modern change, so to see this error here is not completely unsurprising, but that does explain why there were 2 damage numbers. So we get rid of that, and then let's run it again. So now it should fail on the last line and not the first line, the first assert. But hey, the test discovered another bug, so I'm happy about that actually. We love to see it. Test that debug our code for us. So we failed now on line 119. Expected 2, got an actual of 1. Wait, what? So now it says it doesn't generate a number if the player gets hurt for 0 with the no damage number flag off. It should technically work. It should generate a number. So now what's going on? Now we have to debug this one. I don't think we added something to suppress it if we do 0 damage, because we even saw there was zeros popping up for the player earlier. So that should have not been the case. At least we don't think so. So mod damage is 0. Normal damage calculation is required. Let's just keep going. The source file changed. What? How? Oh, oops. That was my bad. I do that sometimes. Yeah, there should be no damage reduction, so keep going, keep going. Oh, I see. If mod damage is greater than 0, well, that's for the Vignette, so we can ignore that one. Keep going. Keep going, keep going. So we subtracted 0 health. Else, if last hit timer... Oh, we have iframes. Wait, why do we have iframes? What? I thought we tested that this function doesn't apply iframes. I could have sworn we wrote a test about that. Hold on. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, maybe we won't get to the next spell today. What is going on? So, the player can't be hit right now, essentially, is what we're seeing. But it should not have applied... Okay, so is there like a set iframes in here that I didn't know about? And is it just for the player? Iframe? If took lethal damage and... Okay, no. Apply iframes. Apply iframes. Set iframes. I didn't see any set iframes. Last took last took damage though. That variable. Or last hit timer. Oh, this is interesting. I did not know we did this. Why do we do this? Last hit timer? What? If it's greater than 0, add damage. Oh, I see what's going on. This is a feature of the damage number system. If you take damage on within a 20th of a second of the previous tick, it will add to the previous damage number to make the damage number bigger. So like, let's say you have a spell that hits multiple times from at the same time. Like, let's say 5 hits, right? The Ranger's multi-shot does this. Instead of displaying like a bunch of like, let's say you do 10 damage with each shot. Instead of displaying a bunch of 10s, it displays the amount of arrows hit. So it'll be like 40 or 50 or 70. Because all those shots would land and hit the opponent in less than 1/20th of a second. So, in order to make this test more accurate, so to speak, and check the number of damage numbers, we have to actually delay by some amount of time before we hurt the player again. So we can just call a game update and wait around for... we can't wait around for too long, so we'll wait for like a 10th of a second. Because the damage numbers are going to animate, and they disappear after like a second. So, as long as we separate the hurt calls by approximately 0.1 seconds, prevent stacking up damage, all on one damage number. So as long as we do that, then we'll properly get one damage number for each individual hit. Or hurt call in this case. So, just a little quirk with the damage number system that I forgot about. So yeah. And now it should fail on the last line. So it says... Can I make this bigger? Dock pop-up. Ooh, yes. We like dock pop-ups. There we go. I would prefer this, honestly, if we have a test that failed. So... Expected 2, and the actual is 3. Actually, can I dock this? Oh, hold on. Maybe I will put this over here or something? Maybe I'll put it here. This window doesn't get used for much. Although now it's hidden from my webcam. Yay! Okay. Maybe I'll put it... Oh, I didn't want everything. God. Let me see here. Let's do... Yeah, I guess I'll just dock it over here. That's fine. I'm okay with this. So yes. Yeah, I like that better. So, expected 2, actual is 3. Flag should suppress a damage number being generated. And so now, let's add in the code that actually fixes this. That we've intended to do this whole time. And I fixed the not. We had inverse logic, so that should make the test actually pass. And then if this passes, I'll go ahead and let it run the rest of the test. Just make sure every test is passing. We haven't broken anything. And then we're going to go ahead and commit. Whee! So the test is now officially passing. So we are actually respecting the no damage number flag now. I could argue that this should now be renamed to like player takes damage and no damage flag. Works. Just rename that test real quick. So now we can run every test. So I'm going to go ahead and run them. And while they are running, I'm going to commit what we have, because we made quite a few significant changes. But we've essentially implemented the freeze ground spell. The only thing we haven't done is fix it, because it is really bright, so I should reduce the opacity of it to something I like, which we can do next time. Or I guess we could do it now. Let's just change it to something else. So 128, too bright. Although I think adding blending, additive will color it regardless of opacity. I think that's how that works. So we might have to actually, like, change it to not use additive blending, which is fine. I'm okay with that. I just thought it would look cool with additive blending, but maybe it won't. Let's just try this first. Let's go really, really small opacity. And I'll go ahead and rebuild. I guess we have to wait for the test to finish, don't we? I wish I could do both, like run tests in this, but also work on this. I don't think it'll let me do that. I wish we could. I really wish we could. Like, if I made this all in a completely separate project, then technically we would be able to do that. We would be able to compile our game and do this at the same time. Maybe I could do it in another Visual Studio instance. Maybe that's all I need to do. Let's try it. I don't usually try this, but I'm gonna try here. So I'm just gonna set this as the startup project, and I'm just going to build it. Okay, so yeah, I mean, looks like it's working. So as long as I do it in a separate project, I can build and test at the same time. Maybe I should start doing that. Maybe that should be my workflow. Have a second Visual Studio open just for testing. I kind of like that. I guess it would take up more resources, but it means I can run tests in the background without having to compromise my ability to work on code. That would be kind of cool. Alright. I kind of like that idea. Obviously, if I'm running tests at the same time, I'm straining my CPU more, but that's fine. Let's see how this looks. I guess this will only be for, like, desperate times, when, like, I really need to do other stuff while unit testing is running. Because this is visual. I can't unit test this early. I need to actually see it and be like, yeah, that sounds good. That seems good. Okay. It does play the sound, too. I guess we shouldn't play the sound. But yes, essentially, this is fine. This is more along the lines of what I want. And as we continue to stand in it, we get a slowdown buff that increases in intensity. Yeah. And eventually it does a little bit of damage. So that's more or less what I'm looking for. Something like this. I don't know. I think the radius is off too. Because we're not actually taking damage. Let me see. Yeah, the radius is a little off. It's maybe like... I guess having it be like this is fine. I might extend the radius a little bit. Versus the size of the graphic. Like, they don't match, right? The size of the graphic does not match the actual radius. Which would be fine if it wasn't that mismatched. So, maybe like... So the freeze ground sprite, let's actually look at that real quick. If we indicate the radius is supposed to be, like, all the way out here, and we only specify, like... What did we specify? We do radius divided by freezeground.png. What is the radius right now? So maybe we mismatched it. Okay, so it's 500, so we don't even convert it to units, which we need to do first. So do divide by 100, that converts it to actual game units. Multiply it by 24, because that's, so this is supposed to represent the number of tiles. So the number of tiles is this. So now we have to take that value, and it would be in 24s. So the size of this needs to be divided by 24 as well. So does that cancel out the 24? I think it does, which, because dividing by 24 would indicate what the scales should be. So for example, if it's supposed to be 1 tile wide, oh no, we divide by size actually. It's times 24, which would give us 5, multiplied by, or divided by, what the size of this is divided by 24. Because what does this represent in tiles, I guess, is the question. Because it's 120 by 120. So in tiles, in tile land, that is what? Times 5? 24 times 5? Okay, 120. So did we do that on purpose? I think I did that on purpose. And maybe that was the intent. So we don't even need this part, because this is the scale? Or is this the... Is this intended to be the pixel size? Or is this intended to... Okay, that's intended to be the scale. So we can get rid of this. And that would be the size of the sprite we want it to be, scaled up. So... Or no, it's normally 5. 120 by 120 is 5. So this represents 5 units, right? So this is the number of units in size. Divide that by the 5, because that's the image size. So I guess you would really do... divide this by 24, in case we change it later, and then divide that by this. That would be the math behind it. Goodness, okay. So that's actually the formula we want. Sizes, well, it should be, we're assuming it's square, so we're just gonna take like the x parameter in this case and do that. There's no parenthesis though, at least there shouldn't be. Oh, there should be, right here. This should be divided by 24 before it's divided by that. Okay. So let's look at how our tests are doing. We are 179 in, everything's passing so far. So I guess I'll just run this in the other Visual Studio. Can I just start a new... No, not a new window. Okay. I don't know if there's really a way to open a new project with a shortcut key. I'm sure there is, but we'll just do this again. Rebuild it. And then run it. Did it rebuild already? Dang. That was fast. Like, damn. Wait, that's the old code. What? Wait, why is it using the old code? Is that how this works? It just runs old code? Did I not save it? That's why? Oh, yeah. If I save it, then this editor will get those changes, right? Yeah. Okay. That makes more sense. I'm like, huh. Why didn't it work? Okay. I'm like, I don't think it recompiled. It just immediately did that. So, yeah. So that's good to know. If I modify a file in here, I need to save it, which it would naturally do if you build, in order for it to appear on the other side. This is fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Oh, thank you. Yeah, of course. I just love programming, and I love sharing my passion of programming with others, so... Always glad. Alright, so let's see here. This is way... Okay, now this is way too big. What happened? What happened? Alright. So, radius was 500, divide by 100 makes it 5, multiply by 24 is not what we want to do, because this is supposed to be a scale. So that leaves us with 5, and then we divide it by the scale of the image relative to the tile size, which is this divided by 24. 120 divided by 24 is 5. This is 5 divided by 5 gives us 1, which is what we want. Okay. So now it should be scaled correctly, and if I ever change the radius, it will now scale appropriately with the image size. So it just so happened the first time the image was very close to the radius-ish, but now I have finer control over it now. So I actually think the outline will be too small now because the radius is supposed to be 5 tiles. So if we think of the radius as 5 tiles, really the image should be 10 tiles in width and height. So I think we're gonna have to actually adjust that. Like, we should expect to keep getting hit even if we walk outside this visible circle. Yeah, or at least double the radius, because the radius is halved. So since it's a radius and the image is half the size it wants to be, I need to multiply by 2. And that'll be the correct scale. And then I think I want to adjust it just a tiny bit, because if we look at the actual image, it doesn't quite go to the edge here, so really the image should be slightly larger by... if this is what, 12 or so pixels? Maybe... oh, this is like 7 wait. Oh, these are 12 by 12, I forgot. So 24 by 24 is like this. Yeah, okay. So really this is like 7 pixels, which is about a quarter of a tile, so 25%. So I could do like 2.25 here, and that should fill it out size-wise to be about the expected radius, more or less. Just take a peek at a test explorer again. We are... oh, did it stop? It said aborted. Oh, does it stop when I run it on the other side? I guess that would make sense. That's kind of unfortunate, but I guess that checks out. Wait, can I just continue it now? Hold on, let me see. Because now I'm running the game, right? So it's like, can I just keep going? Because I'm good to keep going. I don't want it to stop. Hi, I love your makeup today. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Also, I decided to call you Natty. Like N-E-T-I. Because I'm like, I was trying to figure out a name that would like fit the kind of letters. So I decided I'm going to call you Natty, if that's okay. I figured it just works. Okay, this looks correct now. Maybe a little bit more. I'd like to give the player the benefit of the doubt, so you shouldn't have to be completely outside for it to stop hitting you. But yes. So I would say this should be actually like a little larger, like 2.35. And then if the player is on the edge, you're not going to get hit, because the image will look larger than the actual radius, the hit radius. So yeah, that should be good. Once this finishes, I can call it a day. Let's start writing our commit, I guess. Alright, so implemented a freeze ground function, or freeze ground spell. We refactored the entity class to support hashing and added standard unreachable to kill the function after computing the variant. Natty? Yeah. That's just what I decided to go with. As long as you're okay with it. And then we also converted some converted buff getter functions to use views / ranges, as opposed to just using algorithm stuff and vector copies. And then this will be release build 12891, and let's make sure every test passed. We have 237 of 237. 237 of 237 unit test passing. And finally, I was going to add that we added some unit tests for... added unit tests for damage... no damage number flag for player tests. Oh! I need to do that for the monster test too. That'll be next. I guess that'll be next time. Let me add it to my to-do list. I completely forgot. So what is this? Don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. So monster damage test should check for no damage number rule flag to make sure it respects it too. It should, but we found out it didn't for the player, so we added unit tests for that. Okay, so that's everything. I'm going to commit this. And, oh, I forgot the to-do. Oh well, that's gonna go in next time. The to-do is just very temporary. Okay. What is a weak pointer? It is it is basically a shared pointer, but it's non-owning. So it looks up the shared pointer that it's referencing to determine if it's still alive. So unlike a raw pointer, you can think a raw pointer is just like, oh, I'm pointing to something. A weak pointer points to a shared pointer, but if that shared pointer dies, then the weak pointer knows it's dead. So it's like a better raw pointer. But it's non-owning, so you're not passing around shared pointers everywhere, getting confused who owns what. But every time you need to access a weak pointer, you lock it, which gives you access to a shared pointer. So a shared pointer, if it dies for some reason while a weak pointer is accessing something, it can still access it because it creates a temporary shared pointer out of it. So anything that needed that weak pointer can use it until it's done with it and then kill itself. Because once the shared pointer dies, it won't actually be released from memory until every strong ref has been handled. Once there are only weak refs left, then it can kill itself. Either weak refs or no refs at all. So yeah, hopefully that short synopsis makes sense. If you need more info, I'll type in the chat, but I do have to get off stream and get going, so thank you very much. And for those of you that tuned in today, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. It's been a fun session. Freeze Ground is now done. We did a couple of bug fixes as well, so it's been a good, fun coding session. I'm glad we finally have something new added to the game. And we got a lot more to do, of course, so that's next time. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. Or night, wherever you might be. Bye!